Now on Overnights,
I believe in reason and common sense.
Leith Van Onselen from Macro Business with the treasury of common sense.
Common sense never goes out of style.
It is time for our weekly chat about all things to do with the economy with Leith Van Onselen from macrobusiness.com.au. How are things, mate?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Luke. Thanks for having me on again.
An absolute pleasure. Now, yesterday we got the indicative inflation figure. It ticked up a little bit to 5.2% year on year. 4.9 it was in July. This isn't going to have the Reserve Bank race to their calculators and work out what to do with it. I think they're probably going to sit on their hands for a while, this new Reserve Bank. But what do you make of it all?
Yeah, look, it was pretty much to be expected. This is the monthly CPI indicator that comes out from the ABS, and they released the one for August, and it ticked a little bit higher. So after falling for a couple of months in a row, the annual rate of inflation went to 5.2%, up from 4.9% in July. The thing about it is it was completely expected because obviously we've had a massive spike in petrol prices, and we've all seen it like $2.20 or $2.30 at the pump. Recently, sort of at record highs, and that's all. Most of that increase actually happened last month, and so petrol prices actually rose by nearly 10% over the month. And what that means is that's just basically fed straight into inflation. And what the RBA tends to do, and what economists tend to do, is they tend to look past sort of these volatile items that go up and down like a yo-yo. And once you actually strip that out, the inflation rate actually fell slightly. So. It's sort of one of those things that it's what economists call core inflation,
right?
And that actually fell to 5.5% in August from 5.8% the month before, and that's actually been falling since sort of December last year. So I think the RBA will just look past it, but there is a risk going forward because with petrol prices, if they become sustained and $2 sort of becomes the norm for petrol, and then fluctuating between $2 and $2.40 or something, there's always a risk that you get these second round inflation impacts. So what that means is if you run a delivery business or whatever, and there's always a risk that you'll pass on those costs in your prices. So it can feed through to other goods and services. And if that happens, well, then that's when it starts to pose a problem for inflation. But that usually follows down the track.
Right.
But I think, as far as next week's meeting goes, I can't see the RBA raising rates based on this. There's no smoking gun yet, but it could lead to problems down the track. And this is really a symptom of the Australian dollar falling so sharply. Okay. So basically anything that's imported has become more expensive.
All right, but that thing that I guess we can learn is that there are, in fact, two measures. There's core inflation, or is that what we call it?
It's called underlying inflation.
Underlying inflation, right. So underlying inflation is where you take the really volatile things out of that basket that they measure the CPI next to, and the complete basket, it's gone to 5.2, but the underlying one that isn't perhaps so volatile, it's actually dropped again.
Yeah, it has. Okay. I mean, that's actually a little bit high. It's at 5.5, but it has been falling. So the trajectory of that didn't rise, which means the RBA will probably, look past this. I mean, they should look past it.
Yeah. All right. Now let's get on to, it's almost embarrassing to say this, but there's an opposition leader in New South Wales, Mark Speakman, who I have to say I've tried to be generous with, but I just wonder to what extent he's up to the job. I know he's trying to walk away from comments he made to the Daily Telegraph, but he's essentially saying we've got to really grow our population so we can defend ourselves. Defend ourselves. What's going on?
Well, he's sort of gone back to the old Arthur Caldwell 1950s, I think, when Australia had 8 million people after the Second World War, and he was worried that we're too sparsely populated and we're going to get invaded. But, it's a different world we live in now. It's, we've got 26.4 million. Yes. And he basically, he said, as you said, he just said basically Australia's got to populate or perish effectively. We've got to basically have more population, so that we can defend ourselves. Now, this is really pretty ridiculous old school thinking. I mean, Australia's coastline's so huge, you can never have enough people to really defend it. But the thing is, you don't defend it with manpower anyway. You defend it with technology, with your alliances, with diplomacy, all those sorts of things. And if he's really worried about us defending ourselves, well, I mean, I don't know. We could always get a few nukes as a deterrent. Just a thought. I mean, I'm not sort of warmongering here.
No, of course we don't want to start a nuclear war this morning. But yeah, there are options. And what does he imagine? Does he imagine all these newly arrived Australians and long-term residents on the coastline holding boomerangs or, shot puts or something. I mean, you're right. We just don't defend ourselves like that anymore. Goodness me.
No. And it's technologically based. I mean, it's like submarines and planes and, jets and all sorts of stuff. So, I mean, the whole notion you could have a whole bunch of people doing the sort of Stalingrad, just manpower thing, defend us is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I mean, the sad thing about it is, look, it comes on the back of, Premier Chris Minns just late last week and over the weekend saying that we need more immigration to build homes for migrants. That's effectively what he said. So someone asked him, they said, do you support the Albanese government's immigration program? What about the housing market, the housing shortage? And he said, no, I support it. We need immigration so that we can build homes. And I'm like, this is tail wagging the dog economics here. So you don't solve a supply problem by ramping up demand through immigration. It just makes no sense. No. And so he became sort of public enemy number one. And then unfortunately your alternative premier came out yesterday, I think it was, and says we need to populate a parish. So you basically, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. You're dumb and dumber.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's what it is. It's almost like the New South Wales opposition leader is going for the job of defence minister in about 1946. I mean, that's what right. It sounds like. It's madness. And that argument, as you've explained to us before. So we've got to get people here to build homes. So we've got to get lots of builders, but hang on, they're going to need nurses and schools, and they're going to hospitals, and they're going to need places, roads to travel to and from work. So we've got to get people out there to do more of that. Then we need more homes built, so we need more of them, and then to and fro. And Australian people, and surveys continually show this, we're sick to death of it. We're told you've got to live within your means, do your best with what you've got. And the lazy governments, and I've called them that deliberately, they just say, no, open the floodgates. And we get false growth that you've told us about, and we end up with a per capita recession. Last thing we need.
That's right. Well, I mean, just a bit of food for thought. I mean, this century Australia's grown by 7.4 million people. So we've done the whole importing a whole bunch of people to presumably build homes for people, but it hasn't worked. We've fallen further behind than ever. And to your point, I mean, the sad thing is the people that aren't being reflected in this is the wishes of the New South Wales people. I mean, in March 2019, okay, sure, it was 4 years ago, but I'm sure the views haven't changed. Newspoll did a survey of New South Wales residents, and 80% of them said they didn't want the state to grow in size, to grow in population. That was in 2019. Now,
there you go.
So people, and this is obviously reflected in national polls, where about 2/3 of people don't want this extreme immigration. Now, we've obviously got the most extreme immigration we've ever had, and New South Wales has just in the year to March had its biggest migration ever, where it did nearly 155,000 net overseas migration in a single year. This is just crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And it's basically the seed of the housing crisis. We've just got too many people coming in, and the capacity's not there to build the homes for them. It's not just manpower, it's materials, it's land, it's everything else. And so the whole solution that we need more people to somehow solve a crisis of too much demand is the most absurd thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, couldn't agree with you more. Leith Van Onselen, macrobusiness.com.au. Check it out. We do every day. Thank you, mate. Talk to you next week.
Yeah, no worries, Leith. Thanks very much.